Hello, folks. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers, and this is part 2 of the militia story. The situation was that the Murrah building was taken down, and the media was very relentless on attacking the Michigan militia. It should have been known, and it would have in the future, but it should have been known by the way that the media was constantly paying attention to the Michigan militia, that the Michigan militia then would be the one that would be set up. And so what ultimately happened was that there were some people in the militia that decided that they would have to leave. They were getting pressure from their companies that they were working for, and they were being told, you have to leave the Michigan militia or we're going to fire you. And so this was added pressure to the militia movement. And there were a few people, especially people that were in their 50s and 60s, that were not yet retired but were closing in on retirement age, that did go ahead and leave the militia. But what was very interesting is that the militias did not leave. Now, they quit getting attention from the media, which was supposedly going to show that the militia was gone. The media had constantly said that there were 200,000 to 300,000 people in militias across the United States. And that was not true at the time. There was nearly 10 million people in the militias at the time of the bombing of the Murrah building. Very quickly, people came to the realization that the bombing of the Murrah building was an act of the deep state. And what happened? Well, not only did the militia actually go underground. Now, when I say underground, it doesn't mean that they went and got into tunnels. What I mean by that is that they actually got to a point where they were no longer in the spotlight. So they kind of stepped back from the spotlight. But the next thing that happened was kind of shocking, because suddenly the militias began to grow. And instead of having 8 or 10 million people in the militias, suddenly there were tens of millions of people in the militias. And it was growing exponentially. So there were 30 or 40 million people suddenly in the militias across the United States. But what's very interesting is that since the 1990s, and I believe that was 1995 or 96, I don't remember for sure. But since that time, the militias have continued to grow. You will find that a big share of the people who are in the militias are also supporters of President Trump. And the reason that they are supporters of President Trump is because of the fact that they realize that the people on the other side are who they are. That's one reason why the people in the militias have continued to maintain their numbers. The people are who? Well, they're family members. They all have families. They're churchgoers. They're parents. Some of them are children. And that's who the militia people are. The globalists, well, they're the ones that set the treaties out that were to be signed, that the people in the United States would be eliminated. It goes all the way back to the Second World War, when the Japanese general said that we better not attack the United States, because we could hide behind every tree in the United States, but behind every blade of grass there would be an American with a gun waiting to shoot at us, and we would be completely outnumbered. And that's one of the reasons why so many countries have not attacked American soil. We have seen terrorist organizations that have been revved up and have been put in place by Barack Obama, Joe Biden, and other presidents. However, we have not seen countries invade the United States. The cartels have done the same thing. The cartels being supported by the U.S. government, and they are selling fentanyl across the border, and they're doing the sex trafficking across the border, and a lot of other things. I imagine probably even some of the gun running was done by some of those cartels. However, the thing is that the militia is there, but it isn't needed during the time that President Trump is in office, because of the fact that the military alliance is the group, the organizations that are in charge. It is not the military-industrial complex. Now, the other day I said that there were industrial complexes in a lot of different places. And you can look across the board at various things that government organizations have control of. And some of the things that really no one should have control of, they should be up to you, the individual, the American citizen, to be able to handle. And one of those is the health industrial complex. It is controlled by the pharmaceuticals. And unfortunately, what happens is that they make an awful lot of money. Now, they are very invasive in the way that they do things. And the invasiveness that they generate with the various things that they do should not actually be happening. Instead of being evasive, it should be on-evasive. That's what medical treatment should be. But the thing is that they don't want to cure anything. What they want to do is to keep it going, so that you have to keep taking the drugs. Of course, the drugs become habit forming and they become necessary. And getting off of the drugs oftentimes is very dangerous. So you have to wean yourself off and be very careful. But if you'll notice, everything has side effects. It doesn't matter if it's the food industrial complex, the health industrial complex, whatever it is. It all has side effects. It all has things in it that are really not good for us. And so that's the unfortunate part of all of this. We are going to see this year in 2026 as a number of things are going to change in the food industry. We're going to see air pollution becoming lessened by some of the rules and regulations that they're going to make. You're going to see the quality of water get better. In nations all over the world, it's going to be an amazing time in history. And so we are going to be in a position here in the future where it's going to be very healthy to live here on the face of the earth. And that's one reason why it's going to be so enjoyable to be able to spend, 5, 6, 8, 1,000 years on this planet, because it's going to become pleasant. And the health concerns are going to be slim and none. Now, you can say that President Trump is going to do that, but I'm going to tell you that God is going to do that. Jesus is the one who is in control. He is the Savior of the world. That's why he's known as Jesus the Christ, or the Messiah. And because of the fact that he is the one that is in charge, he has your best interest at heart. He does sit at the right hand of the Father. And when he rules for 1,000 years here on the face of the earth, because heaven and earth are going to come together, you know what? He's still going to be at the right hand of the Father. It's going to be a wonderful thing to see them rule and reign together from the city of God. This is Kevin from Good Day, Good Prayers, and I want you to have a good day.